Hi, I'm Simon. I do creative Vue and Nuxt work from Orlando, Florida. And I have a quick story to tell you. Basically, I was asked to create one of these Mighty Bytes videos and ended up sort of getting nerd sniped by a weird solution into actually creating a Nuxt module. So I was working on a website and I had this challenge with sort of mounting a component that I was having a hard time overcoming. Figured out how I could do it with a potential solution, but that solution felt so backwards that I could swear it was an anti-pattern in Vue. It's something that I've never seen before. I went as far as getting on a call with Daniel Rowe to see if he could just sanity check my approach and make sure that what I was about to tell you isn't completely wrong. So let's take a look. Now imagine you have a component in your application that has to appear on multiple pages. Let's pretend it's a heavy component, right? It's got to load a bunch of textures, or it's got to load a 3D model, or it's got to connect to a socket server. It's something that you want to mount as few times as possible, right? You want to persist it as much as you can to avoid the expense of recreating it in the user's browser. Here's the issue. Even if you have two components, one component on two places that is identical, you pass in the same props, you give it a key, you wrap it in Keep Alive, whatever you can do to get that component to stay, to not recreate when it's moving just between two pages but existing in both, it will still get unmounted and remounted between the two. So what is the typical approach to solving an issue like this? Well, from what I've seen, is to take the component and to move it above the page structure. Is to put it into a layout or to put it directly into app.vue if you're working on perhaps a small project. And this method works well, and it's sort of the recommended way of doing persisted headers and footers is, right, you have a layout and you have a header, and then you just have Nuxt page below that. Now this works, but it has one caveat that's going to affect us here. The component is going to be outside of the page DOM. It's going to be above the page or below the page, but it's not a part of the page's DOM. What if you want the best of both worlds? You want to avoid a component remounting more than it needs to, and you want to keep it as a part of the page DOM. That's when it hit me that we could use the teleport component for this purpose. Now, typically when you think teleport, you think you're taking a lower level child component somewhere down the component tree, and you're elevating its DOM to the top of the DOM tree. So modal pop-ups is a great example of this, right? You have a child component, you click a button and a modal pop-up fills either the body tag or the SSR safe teleports tag if you're using that. But what if we flip this notion on its head? And we take a higher level component somewhere near the top of our component tree, outside of Nuxt page. We wrap it in a teleport and we push its DOM down into the page. And all we have to do for that to work is use a selector ID inside of our page or inside multiple pages, and the teleport will be able to find the page's content. So this approach actually works, but it does get a little bit tricky. So when the route changes, the teleport component won't know that it changes, and it will just drop the component. Which will cause our component to vanish. So to make the teleport reactive to page changes, we have to watch the page change and do this quick little shuffle on our teleport's to target, forcing it to reset. But as Daniel pointed out when we spoke, it gets a little bit trickier with asynchronous components, with suspense and await and all that, where it might not be available in the next tick. And so you have to use a mutation observer or something like that to keep tabs on the target's presence on the page so that you know when that page is actually loaded and when that target is available on the next page. So I know I've gone very quickly through this quick tip. I've gone ahead and put this together as a Nuxt module so that you guys don't have to really keep pace with this. You can check out the code on your own time. You can find it. It's Nuxt Adaptive Teleport. It adds an adaptive teleport component into your project, and it works just as described. Just keep it outside of the Nuxt page, put whatever content you need to in there, whatever components you need to keep mounted, and those page changes won't impact it. You'll be able to keep your components within the page DOM and mounted the entire time. You can find this on GitHub, and you can install it in your project with just one Nuxy command, so go ahead and give that a shot. And I will be the first to admit this still kind of feels hacky. So if you have any suggestions, any recommendations, a better way of doing this, or just want to improve my code, I would welcome the feedback. So I hope this, at a bare minimum, was intriguing, and I hope it got you thinking a little bit outside the box, because it looks like we can always teleport back into it. Thank you guys for watching. Enjoy the rest of the conference.